Hello, and welcome to Beyond Curriculum, the professional development series for ASC tutors at College of the Siskiyous. This video is about promoting independent learning through the use of metacognition. One of your jobs as a tutor, no matter which subject you're working in, is to encourage and model critical thinking skills that lead to independent learning and ultimately to student success. Now let's define critical thinking. It's using thought processes, your brain, to come up with a plan of action that will lead to success. So you can use critical thinking not only to solve problems that are a part of the curriculum, but you can use critical thinking to solve problems about how to study or learn the material. It's possible for a tutor to teach specific critical thinking strategies, and this is one of the videos we have on that topic. We also have another video that will help with that. So these are good resources to use for some tips. And more importantly, as a tutor, as a role model, you can model these strategies and you can take your student through the steps to using metacognition. Metacognition is a great critical thinking skill, and it simply means thinking about thinking. There are a couple of concepts that it's important for students to know, and one of them is that you actually can think about thinking. A lot of students may think, well, I'm already thinking, so can I do any more thinking? Well, yes, you can. You can kind of step outside the situation and take a look at it from more of an observer stance and have thoughts about the thinking. And by doing this, you can solve problems by generating strategies. How would you model metacognitive skills to your tutees? Well, let's think about this. One thing you could do is offer two scenarios when you're working with a tutee. For instance, if that student is in a literature class and they need to learn the difference between a simile and a metaphor, you could offer two different scenarios and say, well, which is which? And then if they're struggling with the concept, you can take it a little farther and you can say, well, here is a phrase. Would this be more effective as a simile or a metaphor? And if they're still struggling, you might want to further break it down and say, well, tell me this. Which aspects determine which scenarios? For instance, when you're working with a simile, you know that you'll be hearing words such as like or as, and a metaphor doesn't use those words, so that can be a clue as to which one you're looking for. And you can then offer scenarios and ask which definition applies. You could, for instance, say to your tutee, you could offer them two different phrases. She is beautiful like an angel, or she's an angel. And you can ask them which is a simile, which is a metaphor. And then another great experiment to try is to have your tutee explain the concept as if they were explaining it to a sixth grader. So often, when someone has to break something down and attempt to explain it to someone else, it really helps for them to wrap their brain around the concept themselves. The other thing you can do is explain how you can break problems into parts. Now, this doesn't work just for curriculum-based problems, but it works for problems with how to study for an exam. If you were looking, for instance, at a statistics problem, you could say to the student, well, there are certain signal words that you can look for that will tell you what you're looking for in this problem. So when we see these particular words, we know which equation we'll need to use. And then you can explain how to use resources to solve the problem. So when you get to that point in your statistics problem, that's when you want to get out your calculator, or that's when you want to use the tables at the back of the book, or take a look at your notes. So you can explain how to use resources to the student and make sure that they're aware of the fact that there is an abundance of resources that they can use to help to solve their problems. And then finally, you can ask the student to tutor you. Much like what we talked about with having the tutee explain a concept to a sixth grader, switch roles and have your tutee tutor you. And once again, when they have to break down a concept and explain it to someone else, it can really help for them to understand it themselves. You can take all of these metacognitive pieces and fit them together to help students to solve problems and learn how to work independently. Thank you for being a part of the ASC team, and thank you for watching.